Here's a budget AV receiver from Denon. It is the X1700H, currently on sale at Costco, $100 off for just $300. Can this be crowned the king of budget AV receivers in 2025? Let's find out. According to Costco's website, the sale of $300, which is $100 off its usual selling price, is going to last till March 21st, which means by the time I edit this video and publish this, you'll have less than a day to make that decision. I'm sure my review is going to help you make that decision because this is packed with tons of features, but it's also missing one very important feature that might steer you towards not purchasing this receiver even at this price. Firstly, let's go over the high-level features which are shown on the sticker here. DTS:X and Dolby Atmos, it supports both of those. Remember, this has 7.2 channels and it's just 80 watts per channel, and that is just 2 channels driven. It supports 8K video, but that is only at 60 Hz, 4K at 120 Hz, supports HDR10, high-res audio. It supports Wi-Fi, which means you can wirelessly stream music using a computer and whatnot. Of course, it has Bluetooth, Apple AirPlay, which means you can stream music using an iPad or iPhone and ask Siri to play music. It supports some major music streaming services such as Pandora, Amazon Music, Tidal. And remember, there's a calibration microphone included, which we're going to use for the Odyssey Multi-EQ XT calibration. And of course, the setup assistant. And for those of you who want to use Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant, hey Google, hey Alexa, those are all included features in here. And of course, Spotify is a feature and also supports HEOS.
I don't know, but I found these results on search.
Oh, okay. On the right is the master volume knob, rather cheap, not as good as some of the other receivers we have looked at. On the left is the input selection. There is the power switch and there is a phono input, and it also has a place for the setup microphone in the front. The front panel USB port is for audio playback from USB flash drives. And on the back, the wireless antennas. Let's quickly go over the HDMI ports here. There are 6 HDMI inputs and 1 HDMI output. 3 of those HDMI inputs and 1 HDMI output, they support 8K 60 Hz and 4K 120 Hz video. All the inputs and outputs, they do support 4K 60 Hz video. Now, HDCP 2.3 technology, it ensures compatibility with Ultra HD sources and TVs, and is HDR compatible for extended picture contrast. It supports HDR10, HDR10 Plus, Dolby Vision, and HLG. And the output, it supports ARC and eARC enhanced audio return channel, which receives uncompressed sound signals including Dolby Atmos and DTS:X via HDMI connection from your TV. The power cord is of course removable. Now this has 7 channels of amplification, which means it's gonna support 7.2, just 80 watts per channel in 8 ohms at 0.08 total harmonic distortion. Now that 80 watts per channel is with just 2 channels driven. If you start driving all the channels in a surround sound system, you might not get that much power, which means you have to take into account the speakers that you're going to use with this AV receiver. If you have very high power demanding speakers, floor standing speakers, 8-inch drivers, 4 ohm speakers, less sensitive speakers, then this is going to struggle or not give you the best dynamic range in the sound. It's going to struggle to drive those speakers. So keep that in mind. And I think this is a perfect AV receiver for an apartment. Remember, this has Dolby Atmos Height Virtualization. Chances are in an apartment you cannot drill holes in your ceiling. So that Height Virtualization, it gives a feeling of Dolby Atmos without having height speakers. Speaking of height speakers, let's go over all the available channels. It has the front, left, and right, the center channel, the surround left, and the surround right. And it also shows connections for surround back left and surround back right. And those are assignable, which means for those of you who want to use those as height channels, you can assign them as height left and height right. So that is the option that you get. This also has zone 2, but it is not amplified. It is just a pre-out, which means if you take signal out of the zone 2, you will have to bring in your own amplifier. While zone 2 is just a pre-out, the amp assign feature is going to let you use the surround back channels as speaker outputs for zone 2. This AV receiver does support connecting 2 subwoofers, but chances are inside the receiver, it's going to be a voice splitter that is showing you two subwoofer connectors, which means you cannot control the two subwoofers independently within the receiver settings. Now, for those of you who like gaming, this does support gaming optimized video processing technologies, variable refresh rate, auto low latency mode, quick frame transport. They all eliminate lag and frame tearing. The width is a little over 17 inches, the height is 6 inches, and the depth is a little over 14 inches. When you raise these antennas, the height is going to increase to 8.5 inches. This weighs 19 pounds. It's not very heavy, which means the amplifiers are not very powerful. 19 pounds is not that heavy for an AV receiver, but hey, this is a budget AV receiver. Now, because the Costco sale of $300 is only going to last till today, I did an hour of testing. I listened to music, some movie scenes, some surround sound, calibrated using the Odyssey and used the microphone that came with it. And my impressions are, first of all, the sound quality with stereo music listening. I would give it maybe 8 out of 10. I was using the KEF Q350 speakers. Those are not very power hungry speakers. 8 ohms, 87 decibel sensitivity. I thought the audio quality was very, very good, but that is just 2 channels driven. So in a surround sound setup, this definitely lagged that range. It was not able to go too low. The highs were not so crisp and clear like I have experienced when connecting a dedicated amplifier or using a much more powerful AV receiver. Speaking of dedicated amplifier, this is going to be a deal breaker. So this is very, very important. This feature is missing on this receiver. And what is it? It does not have, surprisingly, does not have any pre-outs for any main zone channels, which means you cannot connect an external amplifier even for the front speakers. Now remember, we have reviewed the very, very popular Yamaha RX V6A or the TSR700. I'll leave a link to that review in the description. That to me is the king of budget AV receivers even in 2025, and that has pre-outs for the front channels. You can take your front channels, run it through an amplifier, and now your front channels are going to have extra power and juice to play some nice speakers and bring out the best, especially with music. This is still an excellent AV receiver for the price. But as far as crowning as the king of budget AV receivers, even in 2025, I think that title is gonna still remain with the Yamaha RX V6A or the TSR700. The link is in the description. That is still the king to me.